Welcome back to your Morning News Leader News Channel 8 this morning. It's now 18 minutes until 7, and our good friend Kurt Pearson from Compass Financial joins us now with the topic of that's getting a lot of attention these days, and it's the country's massive deficit.
Yeah, and Kurt, I imagine most people want to know, hey, for me, the average middle-class American, what could this deficit, what impact could it have?
Well, there are a couple of basic truths that whether we're talking about our government, whether we're talking about our personal balance sheets, it's always good to live our lives by. The first is you cannot build financial security on borrowed money. And so any sense of relief that we get in knowing that our government stimulated the economy but they had to borrow all of these funds to do it is probably a false sense of security. We need to come back to that truth. How that could impact all of us down here on the street is that we kind of depend on a basic sense of stability coming from our macroeconomic environment, our finances in government and the fabric, the landscape of our culture. Well, with all of the borrowed money that's hanging out there right now, that sense of stability could be jeopardized in the future. What our leaders chose to do is to avert immediate crisis. They chose to kick the can on down the road. We all played that game as kids, you know, and kicking that can down the road eventually will have other consequences. The sooner we deal with those consequences, the better. The budget deficit now, or our borrowed money, has grown from 4% of gross domestic product up to about 12% of gross domestic product, and it's growing at a pretty good clip every month. So it's very important that we not only, in my opinion, not only freeze government spending, but we start looking at some pretty significant ways to cut it back so that we can curtail the spending.
A lot of families and households probably dealing with the same kind of budget deficits. What are some things families can do to cut back or save money?
Well, the first thing is to make a list, do a complete audit of how much you owe, who you owe the money to, what the interest rate is, what the monthly payment is. And then the next thing is to begin to shop for lower interest rates. Interest rates are very reasonable right now. And maybe there's some discounting that can occur in what you're actually paying for the use of that money. And then the next step after that is to begin a strategy on, hey, how can we pay this down? Debt on a personal balance sheet is usually a symptom of something that runs a little bit deeper. In other words, are we overspending on a continual basis? And why are we overspending? Is that meeting some emotional need that we have? You got to take it down to the source. If you don't do that, you're just kind of putting a Band-Aid over the major problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kurt, tell us how can people get a hold of you if they would like some more of your advice?
Our local number is 327-1020, and we'd love to hear from them.
All right, Kurt Pearson, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next month.